Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started now. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending our webinar this afternoon. My name is Nikita, and together we're going to talk about IRS filing requirements and how Tax 990 can assist you in your annual 990 series filing. If you have questions during the presentation, please add them to the chat, and Christina will address them along the way. We'll also have a few live Q&A opportunities throughout the presentation. We do want to mention that we are not tax advisors and we will not be providing specific tax advice. We will purely be discussing IRS e-filing requirements and the process of e-filing. For specific tax questions, please contact a tax professional. If you're having trouble hearing me, please go ahead and post a note in the chat so we can review that and take a look at it. During the webinar, we will be discussing IRS e-filing requirements, what you need prior to filing, IRS filing deadlines, how to e-file with an IRS authorized e-file provider, and then we'll briefly go through filing your return with Tax 990. To maintain your tax-exempt status and remain compliant with the IRS, organizations are required to file a 990 series return on an annual basis. Failure to file could result in penalties by the IRS or revocation of the organization's exempt status. The IRS mandated e-filing for 990 series returns on July 1st of 2019. Organizations filing a return with a tax year beginning date after July 1st of 2019 are required to e-file their returns moving forward. The IRS is moving towards e-filing for many reasons. E-filing reduces the amount of filing errors and helps ensure that the IRS guidelines are met, meaning calculations are more accurate and information provided matches information in the IRS database. E-filing also makes filing and IRS processing more efficient. And with e-filing, there's a quicker turnaround time on updated form status. Usually within just a few days, you'll know whether the return was accepted or rejected. Additionally, just the knowledge that the IRS received your return. You're not relying on postal services and mailing processes. There are several important pieces of information you'll need prior to filing. You'll want to confirm your organization's 9-digit EIN, the organization's address, and the tax year beginning and ending date, and the tax-exempt status. The information you provide on your return must match the information on the IRS database. All of this information can be found on your organization's IRS determination letter or on previous tax returns. If you do not have this documentation, you may need to contact the IRS prior to filing. If you have contributors that gave over $5,000 in one contribution, you may be asked to provide the contributor's name and address. You'll also need the name, phone number, and address of the principal officer. To save time, you may want to gather this information prior to starting your 990 series return. 990 series return deadlines are based on the organization's tax year. Your annual 990 series return must be filed by the 15th day of the 5th month following the end of the organization's tax year. Right now, we're focusing on a May 15th deadline. If the 15th of the month falls on a weekend or federal holiday, the deadline is moved to the next business day. Most organizations have either a calendar tax year that runs from January 1st through December 31st, or a fiscal tax year that runs from July 1st to June 30th. However, a fiscal tax year can be any 12-month time frame other than January 1st through December 31st. If you're short on time and are concerned you won't be able to complete the return on or prior to your deadline, you can file an 8868 extension form to apply for a 6-month deadline extension. If you have a May 15th deadline, which would mean you have a January 1 through December 31 tax year, or you have a July 1st through June 30th tax year and filed an extension, You can start filing your return now. Okay, before we proceed, we'll take a few minutes to address some questions live. You can post your questions in the chat and we'll answer them here live along the way. Artina is wondering what happens if your exempt status is revoked. You would need to start by contacting the IRS to determine what steps you need to take to have that reinstated. And then you can file the 990 form for the years that the IRS requests you to file for. We have a question about filing the extension. If you want to file an extension, you can do that anytime after your tax year ends. So if you do have a May 15th deadline and you want to file an extension, you know you'll be filing an extension, you can file that now. As long as the tax year has ended, you can file your extension form. You cannot file an extension after your deadline. So if you have a May 15th deadline, you cannot file an extension on May 16th. It has to be before the deadline. We have a good question about the Schedule B and whether your contribution is person, payroll, or non-cash. Person means that a individual or a group gave you a cash donation in the form of a check or some form of cash payment. Payroll is like a payroll deduct if the contribution came out of a paycheck straight to the organization. And non-cash would be something that's non-monetary, such as time or equipment, something that can't have a value on it. We do have a question about the specific categories of the 990s. We are not going to be going in depth on the 990 form today or the requirements of the 990 form today, but we definitely will take that as a suggestion for future 990 filing webinars that we'll host. The contributor information doesn't necessarily determine the form you need to file. If you still qualify in your gross receipts and assets for the 990EZ, you can file a 990EZ form and the appropriate schedule will generate for you to provide your contributor information. If you're not sure of your deadline, again, you'll want to reference your determination letter from the IRS or get in contact with the IRS. We do not have a way to know your specific organization tax year. Again, the May 15th deadline is going to be for organizations that have a January through December tax year or filed an extension and typically have a July through June tax year. I think we're going to go ahead and move on with our presentation here. We will do some follow-up Q&A live here shortly, and Christina is still working on answering those as we go. So please continue to put your questions in the question box. And if we don't get to your question today, we will follow up in an email and provide you with a direct response. Let's talk a little bit about using an e-file provider. Since the IRS has mandated e-filing, your organization must use an e-file provider to complete and transmit your return. If you're filing for a previous tax year, such as 2020, you are mandated by the IRS to e-file. With e-filing becoming more prominent and the IRS mandating e-filing of more and more forms, paper filing is just becoming a thing of the past. Tax 990 is an authorized e-file provider with over 10 years of experience in e-filing tax forms. Collectively, Tax 990 and its sister products, Tax Bandits, ACA Wise, and Express Extension, support e-filing for over 70 business tax forms. If your organization or business needs to file W-2s or 1099s or any 94X series or ACA forms, please check out some of our other e-file solutions. Now that we've reviewed the IRS guidelines, we're going to discuss some of the key features that Tax 990 offers to assist you in your filing process. Tax 990 performs an internal audit after you've completed the return. This verifies that the requirements from the IRS form instructions have been met. The audit helps verify that your calculations are accurate and necessary schedules are generated. In the case that your return is rejected by the IRS, Tax 990 provides the reason for the IRS rejection and allows you to resolve and retransmit the return at no additional cost. For example, if the IRS rejected your return because the tax year provided does not match what the IRS has in their database, you'll be able to edit the information on the return and retransmit it. As mentioned earlier, with Tax 990, we provide auto calculations. This feature helps remove the guesswork from filing by calculating several areas of the return. For example, when you input all your different categories of revenue, the total revenue will be calculated accordingly. Filing a 990 return can be a lengthy process, and when you file with Tax 990, you can come and go as you please, and the information you enter is saved automatically. Since we offer a cloud-based program, you can access your account from anywhere at any time and pick up where you left off. We also understand that most organizations have been paper filing for years and prefer to review the return prior to transmitting or while working through the process. You'll have access to a draft PDF while you're working on the return. When you finalize and transmit your return, you'll have access to a professional copy for your records. The professional copy will remain in your account so you can print or download it at any time. Whether you assist in the filing process for multiple organizations or you're only filing for one organization, you can manage all your details from the same Tax 990 account. Your organization information saves in the account, so when it comes time to file each year, you can select which organization you're filing for, and the name, EIN, address, and principal officer information will auto-generate. We also understand that it's not always easy to know what additional information is required on your return. When you complete a return with Tax 990, we help determine what schedules are required based on the information you provide on your form. The schedules required will automatically generate for you to complete. Additionally, only the necessary parts of the schedule will appear, so you're not completing information that's not required. For example, if you make a selection on the 990 form that your organization is a 501c3, page 1 of Schedule A will generate automatically. Once you choose your reason for public charity status on page 1 of Schedule A, the necessary additional parts of Schedule A will be enabled. Once you complete a return, you can share it with members of your organization for approval. The return can be shared electronically, meaning you send the organization member an email to access the document online and they can review it, comment on it, and approve it. Or you can share manually, meaning you would print a copy to share with the organization members. When filing from year to year, a lot of your information remains the same. With Tax 990, we provide the ability to transfer information directly from a prior year. When filing consecutive years, the organization information, public charity status, books are in the care of details, Schedule B, contributor names and addresses, list of officers, and prior year revenue and expenses can all be transferred to the current year return. This is an optional feature, and information can be changed once the transfer is made, leaving it completely customizable. It's important to know if your return was accepted. Once the IRS provides a status update, you'll receive an email with the acceptance notice. The IRS acceptance letter will be available in your account for your records. We often get questions about the signature portion of the return when e-filing. If you are filing on behalf of your organization, a physical signature is not required. You'll need to provide the name and title of the individual preparing the return, but you will not need to sign the form. When filing as a paid preparer, you'll be able to send the 8453 TE signature page to your client, where they can sign and return it to you. Once they sign the document electronically, it will be automatically uploaded to your return, and you will be able to proceed with filing. We're going to go ahead and work through a 990EZ form and take a look at the Tax 990 account. We're going to focus on adding your organization, completing the 990EZ form, reviewing attached schedules. We'll look at the internal audit. We'll look at processing your payment and sharing your return, and then transmitting it to the IRS. So once we've logged into our account, we can begin by adding our organization. As mentioned, you can add multiple organizations to one account if you need to. You can click here to add a new organization, or choose from your drop-down menu over here. Let me see if I can enlarge my screen a little bit here. So again, you have your add organization option to add a new organization, or you can choose the organization you need to work on from the drop-down menu. When adding a new organization, you're just going to input the EIN and click search, and it'll allow you to input your organization information manually. Now I already have a 990EZ started here for us, so we're going to take a look at that. When you're beginning your return, you'll just click the Start New Return option and choose the form to file. As you can see over here on the right side, you can change your tax year. Tax 990 always supports the current and 2 prior years. So right now we have 2020, 2021, and 2022 available. Once you choose your tax year, then you can just click Start Now on the form that you need to file. Today we'll just click Continue where you left off to pick up on my in progress return. So here I have a 990EZ for 2021. We're going to just click Continue there. So we have 2 filing options. This one is our form-based filing option. We'll take a look at our interview-based filing option here in a minute. But with the form-based filing option, you complete the return line by line and manually input your information in each section. And you can jump between the pages to enter your information. As I mentioned, your calculations will automatically generate. As you can see, for example, here on part 2, our information's been entered and then automatically calculated here. So anywhere that we have a yellow box is where we can enter information manually. A gray box with a green plus sign allows us to add information to our Schedule O. By clicking the green plus sign, it will generate the values on the section, and our explanation here of equipment will generate on Schedule O, which I'll show you in a moment. If there's a gray box that does not have green plus signs, those are auto-calculated sections and not in areas that you can edit manually. As you can see here, we've got Schedule A and B included on our form. The remaining schedules are not required based on the information we've provided on the return, and Schedule O is listed at the bottom. As I mentioned a moment ago, when we looked at my equipment explanation on part 2, that's going to be generated on Schedule O with the explanation and the values. If we scroll back up here and look at Schedule A, because I've chose we are a 501c3, Schedule A was generated because I marked this number 7 option. Page 2 was generated, and the remaining sections of Schedule A are not required, so you'll only be required to complete the necessary portions. If we click here on Audit Errors, we can take a look at what errors we have on our return prior to filing. So we have 2 errors. Item G, accounting method is required field, so we can click Fix Error, and it'll take us to the page with the error in reference. Here on item G, we don't have a selection on our accounting method. Once I make that selection, I can refresh our errors and that one goes away. Again, Schedule B error, we can click Fix. And we would just take a look here and see what is missing. So the error is indicating something is missing on this portion. Here we have not selected person, payroll, or non-cash. We'll go ahead and refresh. And now we have no more errors. So we also provide the form instructions if you need to quickly reference an instruction here on the form while you're working through it. If you're not sure how something is calculated or what it means, you can look at all the schedule or form IRS instructions here on the form. So now that we've completed our return, we're going to go ahead and click Save and continue to audit to proceed to the next couple of steps. You'll be given a detailed summary of your form, which you'll want to review just for accuracy, and then click Continue to Audit. If we have additional errors, it'll tell us here what additional errors we have and provide a Fix Error button so we can go back and fix it. Since we've already cleared our errors within the form, we can go ahead and click Next. This is going to be your service fees page indicating how much you owe for the form. You can opt for an additional text alert or fax, and the total will be down here. I have already processed the payment for this form, so we don't have to worry about that today. You will get an email from Tax 990 either way when the IRS has updated your form status, but some people just like real-time information, so you can choose that additional text alert if you'd like. Once we've paid for the form, you'll have the option, as mentioned earlier, to share electronically or share manually. If we choose to share electronically, we can click Add User, provide a contact name, phone number, and email address for the individual we need to share with, and click Share Return. That organization member will get an email where they will be able to access the form, view it, suggest edits, or approve it, but they won't actually be able to change anything on the form. Today we'll go ahead and click Share Manually because really I don't need to share this with anybody, so I can just click this option and proceed with filing my form. Once we're at this point, you're going to be asked for an online signature pin. This is a pin of your choosing, not something that you've been provided. So you choose your pin and click Transmit. And we have our transmitted form. Congratulations. You can view, download your receipt, or view and download your form. Again, using an IRS authorized e-file provider such as Tax 990, you're able to transmit the return and receive IRS status update at a quicker rate. With our internal audit, we're able to confirm that your form has met IRS business rules prior to filing. And when paper filing, there's no determination whether that transmit met the instructions and guidelines. So I just want to briefly go back through some of the other features and kind of navigating the account here. So I've again clicked the home page. It's going to take us back to where we were originally when we logged in. But now instead of paid not transmitted and continue filing, we have a return status of transmitted to the IRS. From this option, we can view our form, we can download a copy of our form, or we can send it in an email. We can view, download, and email the receipt, and we can go back to viewing the instructions if necessary. We're going to look at, I've got a couple other ones here. So if we look at a different organization, so for Phoebe's Pet Parlor, I have multiple forms in that organization. So they're both going to show up here and let us know what status we're at with all of those. So here I have a 2021 accepted by the IRS return, where we can view the acceptance letter, the form itself, or the receipt. And I have an in progress return where we can continue filing or delete if necessary. And as mentioned earlier, you can view a PDF copy while you're working through the form by navigating here, hovering over this documents icon and clicking view or download. This will give you a draft copy of your form. It will have a watermark on it because we don't want you transmitting it yet. Once you pay and transmit the return, that watermark will go away, and this copy will be a professional copy for your records. Let's see, I've got one more. If we look at this one here, I have a 2021 that was rejected by the IRS, and as mentioned earlier, you'll have the option to view, resolve, and retransmit a rejected return. So when you click rejected by the IRS, you'll get a pop-up providing the information on why it was rejected. This form was rejected because the organization is not established as an exempt organization with the IRS. That just means that the IRS received this and said, we don't see your EIN in our database as an exempt organization. So in that situation, I would call the IRS, figure out what's going on, and then come back in here and retransmit my return by clicking fix error and walking through the steps again to retransmit. You would just, the same steps as you originally took by clicking save and continue to audit and following the next several steps to retransmit the form. Again, retransmitting, there is no charge. So when you click to retransmit a form, your total will have a $0 on it. After making the necessary changes, you'll still have the option to reshare and then retransmit to the IRS. As mentioned, we do have an alternate filing platform. So we looked at the form-based, where you fill it out line by line. We also have what we call interview-based. And I'm just going to briefly show you what that looks like. So whereas our last form had each page listed out and you could manually enter each line item, our interview-based is more of a question and answer format. So you have up here the different sections of the form, and you would click start on the necessary portions and input your information. For example, our revenue, contributions, we'll click start, and it's going to ask us, did you receive contributions, yes or no? If I click yes, it'll ask me to input the information for those contributions. If I click no, it'll allow me to proceed to the next page. And that's how that whole interview format works. You don't see the form at any point in the interview process. You would still be able to download a PDF of it, but you don't see the form itself through the process. It's all yes or no answers and providing the information as the pop-ups generate. If we click on the 990 series tab up here at the top right of the screen, it'll bring up all of the information on the one organization. So at the home screen, we were on Phoebe's Pet Parlor. The 990 screen, it's going to bring up the form we were working on, the organization we were working on, and give us a brief overview of what we've accomplished, as well as our due date. If you need to file an extension, as mentioned earlier, that option is here, and you just click extension and start now and walk through the same kind of formatting to file that extension. Again, if you have a May 15th deadline and concerned you won't be able to complete your form in time to meet that deadline, you can file the 88 extension form and apply for that 6-month extension as of now. We do also provide the option to amend an accepted return. If you notice a mistake has been made after the form's been transmitted and accepted by the IRS. Let's look at the 20. So here I have an accepted form. Again, from the 990 series, you have a little bit better overview of that specific organization and form and reference. You can again view your acceptance letter, the form itself, the instructions, the receipt. You can also amend the return from this section by clicking Amend Return and following the prompts to make the necessary changes and retransmit that. I will briefly just go over some of the other features within Tax 990 that we spoke about earlier. Okay, so moving forward, we do have Experience Live support that's dedicated and personalized, and we're available. You won't have to be on hold for several hours or put on a callback list with Tax 990's support team. If you need assistance with your return or navigating your account or just basic questions on your rejection errors or things like that, you can give us a call or you can reach out to us via chat or email. We're here to help along the way. Please keep in mind, as the May 15th deadline approaches, our wait times may be longer. You can get started on your 990 series return now, and we'll be more available during this time than we are, May 14th. But absolutely reach out to us if you have questions. Please let us know. Please don't hesitate to ask. We also have a great YouTube channel and blog channel that we keep updated regularly with helpful tips and videos. So if you have questions or you're concerned and it's after hours, we're not available, please try checking out some of our other tools to help answer some of your questions, or reviewing our knowledge base at tax990.com. You can type in a keyword and search or a form and search, and it'll provide specific questions and the responses to those questions. So we provide a lot of different tools to help you out along the way and answer the questions that you have. Okay. We'll go ahead and do another live Q&A. If you have questions, go ahead and enter them in the chat, or you can email us if you have specific questions to your account or form. We would prefer that you send those in an email and we can address you individually instead of through the webinar. That email is support@tax990.com. As I mentioned, if we do not get to all of these questions today, we will follow up with an email tomorrow and give you a response to your question specifically. We do not currently have an integration platform with QuickBooks for your information. That was a question that just showed up. Again, we are not tax professionals and cannot provide specific tax advice. We can really assist with basic understanding of the instructions and the forms and navigation. But if you do have specific tax questions or you're not understanding why your calculations aren't adding up or something you've never done in the past, we do suggest contacting a tax professional. If you have questions on your revoked status, we do suggest contacting the IRS first to determine what next steps your organization needs to take. Erica has a question about an amended 2019 form. As mentioned earlier, we do not support 2019 at this time, so we do not have an amendment option for the 2019 form at this time. You can file an amended return for a prior year, but we only support filing 2020, 2021, and 2022 right now. So if you have to file an amended for either of those years, you can do that through Tax 990. If you have questions about our pricing page, you can go to tax990.com and click on the pricing tab to view our per form pricing. You are only charged for the forms that you file when you file them. So we don't have like a subscription or anything like that. When right before transmitting the form, you'll be charged for it. So take a look at our pricing. If you have additional questions, please send us an email directly. We will provide this, the entire webinar on both our YouTube channel and our tax990.com website. We will also send out an email to everybody that's registered with the link so you can view it later if you need to. We did mention that we'll be giving out a coupon code or discount code for the attendees of the webinar. That code will be sent to you in an email after the webinar and will be active through the end of the year this year. Jennifer, just in reference to your question about converting your 1120s to 990 forms, we would suggest consulting a tax professional first to determine what those steps would be. Once you ensure the process with the tax professional and the IRS, give us a call and we can help you get started on your 990 form, but we can't advise on the process of converting those forms. Okay, it looks like our questions slowed down, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Again, get in touch with us. Thank you guys for joining us today, and we hope this was helpful. If you have suggestions on other webinars you'd like us to host, please feel free to reach out, send us that information. We're always looking for new ideas and how to help keep you guys better informed and make your tax season a little bit easier. So please send us an email if you have any suggestions. Like I said, if I didn't get to your questions and Christina didn't get to your questions today, I will follow up with an email over the next couple of days. And again, thank you guys for attending and have a great rest of your Tuesday afternoon.